There are many issues that are polarizing in our culture today, in our society, things that divide us, both politically as well as in the church. Many issues are polarizing in the church. I made a video a few weeks ago concerning the last General Conference of the United Methodist Church and how they overturned a 40-year ban against practicing LGBTQ being ordained as clergy in the church, as well as now making it legal in the church to perform same-sex weddings and also on church property, and also redefine marriage as not just between a man and a woman, but now it just says two persons. And so those are polarizing issues, both in society as well as the church. Another one of those issues and the issue I want to talk about today is the issue of abortion. And the reason I want to talk about this issue is because it has a lot to do with my own personal story. So stay tuned for that, but because we're going to get into my story and what it has to do with abortion. But first, my name is Hal Hall, and I am the founder and lead visionary of a new ministry called the Great Awakening Church and Network, and we're located in the greater Memphis area and just below the state line in Olive Branch, Mississippi. If you want to know more about our ministry, I invite you to send me a message, and I'll be more than glad to get information to you. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Preacher Hal on Instagram, and we also have a Great Awakening Network Instagram page. And then I'm on YouTube, and I am Pastor Hal Hall on YouTube. And so if you like this video, like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell, and it will alert you when new content is uploaded. And I try to put out new content at least once a week, but sometimes more if I have time, or if there's something that happens in the culture or in the world that needs to be addressed, I will make a video about it and upload that. So let's get into this issue about abortion and what it has to do with me personally. So as you know, Roe v. Wade became, with that landmark case, it became the law of the land. Abortion became legal on January 22nd, 1973. And since that time, many Americans and many people in the church have been divided over the issue of abortion. And so many pro-life groups have come up and to support the right to life, and many pro-abortion groups, pro-choice groups have come up who support the right to an abortion. And so language has changed and so forth, and I don't want to get into all the different kinds of languages that people use and that kind of thing, but and so I do want to say this, that I am staunchly and unapologetically pro-life. I believe in the sanctity of life with all of my heart, and one of the reasons that I believe in the sanctity of life, not just because I believe abortion is murder and the Bible is against murder. So that's not the only reason that I am pro-life. I am pro-life because I was adopted at 3 weeks old. When I was 3 weeks old, I was adopted. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my story. So I was born in 1968, which is before the Roe v. Wade case, but they still were performing abortions. So I am grateful that my birth mother chose life, chose to have me rather than abort me, and I am grateful for that. And so I'm grateful also that my parents adopted me at 3 weeks old, and they also adopted my sister, who was 2 years older than me. We're not blood related, different birth parents, but she's my sister, always has been my sister. And so I'm grateful that my birth mother gave me up for adoption, because I grew up in a wonderful, fantastic family. I could not have chosen a better family to grow up in. Grew up in a godly home, grew up with godly parents, and they loved both my sister and I. I could not have asked for a better family to grow up in. Both of my parents, my adopted parents, have passed away. And let me say this, I've always known that I was adopted. There was never a time when my parents came to me and sat me down and said, Hal, we have this big news that we want to share with you and lay on you. by the way, you are adopted. So I've always known, and I can't remember a time when I did not know that I was adopted. And same thing with my sister as well. She always known too. In fact, I was adopted out of the Mississippi Children's Home Society in Jackson, Mississippi. And so that organization exists now under a different name, but that was the name of the organization that I was adopted out of. And so even as kids, as children, my parents took us to the Mississippi Children's Home Society, and there's something special there at that place. And so something very special. There's a room that they have in the place, and it's called the receiving room. I may get choked up a little bit as I talk about this. But there's a place called the receiving room. And the receiving room is where parents who are adopting children go and see their children for the first time. And there in the receiving room is something that's very special. And there is a white wicker basket cradle that for the past over 100 years now, every child that's ever been adopted out of the Mississippi Children's Home Society has laid in that white wicker basket cradle. And I've got pictures of me laying in that white wicker basket cradle. I've got pictures of my sister, who's 2 years older than me, at 2 years old, peering up over the edge of that white wicker basket cradle, looking in at me. And so I have, as an adult, I have gone back and I have visited the white wicker basket cradle. And so I think it's a very emotional experience, and also to know that there are thousands of babies that have laid in that little white wicker basket cradle, that their lives have been forever changed because their birth mother, birth parents recognized that they were not able to care for them and gave them up for adoption. And I know several people who have also been adopted out of the Mississippi Children's Home Society and have laid in that little white wicker basket cradle. In fact, I was telling this story, as a pastor, I was telling this story at Christmas, at a Christmas Eve service one year, telling the story. And there was, it was the first year that I was at this pastor of this church. And there was a lady that came up to me afterwards, and she said, "I know that little white wicker basket cradle because my son laid in that little white wicker basket cradle." And today he and I are friends as well. I'm no longer at that church and anymore, but we had a special bond with that couple. I had a special bond with them. So I'll say that to say this: I am staunchly pro-life. I believe that adoption is a much better choice than abortion. And so I could have very easily been aborted. And if it were the case, my children would not be alive today. And so a lot of people's lives, I like to think that I have impacted certain people's lives, many people's lives, and being a pastor and all the churches and people that I've ministered to over the years, I like to think that I've impacted their lives in some way, and perhaps somebody might not be in the kingdom today because if I were to be aborted. So I staunchly believe that adoption is a much better choice than abortion. I've heard some criticism about abortion. People or pro-life people saying that, well, you're just pro-birth. You're not really pro-life, So that's nonsense. That's just political nonsense. That's all that is. And so, yes, I am pro-life and not just pro-birth. So let me tell you a little bit also about my story. So I grew up in a very loving home. I could not have asked for better parents, loving parents. Never have seen them in any other way other than my parents. Well, they have both passed away a number of years ago now. both passed away, and I never really thought about finding my birth parents. It just wasn't something that was important to me because my life was fulfilled one way, either way. Well, my mother died first, and then my dad passed away several years later. And after he passed away, I got to thinking, I really don't know what my ethnic heritage is. I don't know, I just don't know what it is. And so Ancestry.com was advertising a lot on TV, and my wife got me one of the Ancestry.com kits for Christmas one year, and I did what I needed to do, sent it in, and then I got the results back. And of course, there's an app, and you can go online and find all of this. So I found out what my ethnic makeup was, my ethnic heritage, and so I found out that I am British and Irish, and I've got a little Scandinavian in me. And they also give you a map, and it has little dots on that map that says where your people are, where your blood relatives may be. So there was a bunch in Great Britain, there was a bunch in Ireland, and there was a little bit in Scandinavia. And then across central Mississippi, there was a whole lot of dots. And so I'm like, okay. So after being on the app and the website for a while, it kind of connected you with some of your blood relatives. And so I started getting an email from someone who was saying, who appeared to be like a third cousin or something like that. And so he emailed me, and he was asking me questions like who are your parents and who are your other cousins and relatives and that kind of thing. And I had to explain to him that, I don't know who my blood relatives are because I was adopted at 3 weeks old. And he said, well, it just so happens that me and this friend of mine, we are really into ancestry stuff, and we have helped other people find their birth parents. And if you would like to, we perhaps could help you find your birth parents. Would you like for us to do that? And I said, sure, that would be great. It's fine if you don't, because my life is fulfilled one way or the other. But sure, that would be something kind of cool, I think. And so over the course of several years, every 6 months or so, I would get an email asking more information about my birth parents, about the Mississippi Children's Home Society, and so forth. And just about 6 years ago now, I got an email saying, do you have any documentation from the Mississippi Children's Home Society where you were adopted out of? And what I had was, back in the 90s, there was some kind of court case, and they had to release some medical information and that kind of thing. And so I had that, and that's all I had. And it was a sheet of paper that had some medical information on front and back. Just basic information, not really a whole lot. I said, I have this, and I'll be more than glad to send it to you. So I did. But what I sent him was the piece of the puzzle that he needed. And so after I sent him that, he said, I know who your birth parents are. And so he sent me some pictures of my birth parents. And so I know my birth mother's name, and I also know that I have a half sister through my birth mother. But one of the things that I was very aware of is I didn't want to cause any kind of emotional stress to my birth parents, because I didn't know if my birth mother, maybe she didn't tell anybody about me and that kind of thing. And so maybe her husband didn't know, her family didn't know, if she's married, her children didn't know anything about me or that kind of thing. So I was like, I'm a little skeptical to kind of interject myself into, this family that I'm just now discovering that I have. And so, but I did discover my birth mother's name, and that I've got a birth sister. And what I found out was right. My birth mother did not tell anybody about me. In fact, I was given a book to read called The Girls Who Went Away. And so she was one of those that went away, and some of those young girls who were pregnant, unwed mothers back in the day, they went away and they were treated very badly. Really, they were abused, really. And you think about the stigma back in the 60s about that. So that was a bad thing. And so I was like, I don't want to interject myself into that, but and cause some problems. So I have not met my birth mother, but I have, or someone on my behalf has reached out to her, and so she does know about me, and I have talked to and my half sister, and she found out about me, did not know about me before, but now, even though we have not met face to face, we've talked over the phone, and we text one another back and forth at holidays and special times of the year. We text one another and that kind of thing. And so my birth mother's husband was sick. He did not know about me, and he eventually passed away a couple of years ago now. So if we meet now, that's fine. If we don't, that's fine too. My birth father, however, he was a little bit about my story that I did not know. He was a Green Beret in Vietnam, and so he was home on leave and had a one-night stand, and I am the product of that one-night stand. And so he knew nothing about me until 6 years ago. And so my third cousin, who was emailing me about helping me find my birth parents, he is related to my birth father, so he knew him. His name's Perry, and so he knew Perry, and so he called him, and in their conversation, he says, "By the way, do you know?" And my birth mother's name is Amanda. "Do you know Amanda?" And at first he's like, "Amanda? I don't remember an Amanda." And then he began revealing a little bit more about the conversation. He's like, "Oh yeah, I do remember her." And so the interesting thing about my birth father and my stepmother is they were never able to have children. She had a miscarriage early on in their marriage, and complications. She was not able to have children after that, and so they never had children of their own. And so me coming along was kind of like a breath of fresh air. They never had children, and now all of a sudden they've got a son and they've got 2 grandchildren and that kind of thing. So that has been interesting thing. So let me tell you about this. I'm getting a whole bunch of text right now for some reason. So I'm getting to the climax of the story and I'm getting a bunch of text. Sorry about that. So what happened was when my birth father found out about me, he wanted to take a DNA test to kind of, make sure. Of course, you want to make 100% sure. And so he took the DNA test and it came back. And of course, it said that 100%, he was my birth father, is my birth father. And you could look at pictures of him and tell, yep, that's your birth father, yep. And so we even have a lot of the same mannerisms, which is kind of interesting. But so after he found out, we met the very next day. And so met him, met my stepmother, and so we've got a great relationship. We get together for holidays. We spend Christmas and Thanksgiving together. They come over here and spent the night several times. And we had dinner a couple of weeks ago, actually. Just a couple of weeks ago, we drove down. And it's funny, I've lived in the town that they live in right now, too. So that's interesting, too. So I think my story is a story of God's grace. It's a story of just how everybody's got a plan and a purpose, right, for their life. God has a plan and a purpose for every single life. And so abortion kind of takes that plan away, because God, I think, has a plan for every single life. And we don't know what that plan is. What if that child, that baby that was aborted, if God had a plan for that person, and that all of the influences that person had would have as they grew up and as became an adult and a member of society? What if all those influences were taken away? The world would be a totally different place. Ray Boltz, who is a polarizing figure himself, but Ray Boltz wrote a song that kind of goes along with kind of what I'm talking about. And it goes like this. When Jesus walked upon the earth on the shores of Galilee, he'd say to his disciples, "Let the little children come to me." I wonder if up in heaven, do you suppose we'll see little children asking, "What was I supposed to be? What was I supposed to be? What were my eyes supposed to see? Why did I taste of death before I even drew a breath, or lay my head at my mother's breast to sleep? Oh Jesus, what was I supposed to be? Was I to be a prophet used in the ministry, a doctor who would find the cure for some terrible disease? Even if I'd been born imperfect, why couldn't my parents see how to be made perfect when you came back for me? Oh Jesus, what was I supposed to be?" So the issue of abortion is polarizing, it's divisive. I get it, I know. I understand where even some of the pro-choice, pro-abortion people are coming from. I get it, I understand their argument, especially when it comes to rape and incest. I get it, or the life of the mother. I get it, I understand that. But I think adoption and life is a much better choice. I think and I believe that is God's way, that's the biblical way, and so I hope my story is an encouragement to you. And maybe if you're on the fence one way or the other, trying to decide, do I want to be pro-choice, or am I pro-life? Where do I fall on this? Maybe, hopefully, my story would influence you to choose life, because I think that is the most important thing. Life is precious, and God is the author of all life, and all life bears his image, the imago Dei, the image of God. So if you're on the fence, my encouragement to you, choose life. God bless you, and I hope my story has impacted you in some way.